Good afternoon for everyone on the East Coast, and it's still kind of late morning on the West Coast, but we're going to give everyone just a couple minutes to trickle in here, and we will get started shortly. While we wait for everyone to join, and I'll walk through this a couple times quickly, but if you haven't joined one of Rockerbox's webinars before, you are able to access the chat on the right-hand side of the screen where you can ask questions as we go. So we'll cover this as we get into it, but please don't be shy to add questions as this will be more of an open dialogue. Yeah, hopefully everyone has some fun plans for one of the last, we're not quite done with summer yet, but it does feel like summer's coming to a close.
Oh yeah, the traffic definitely is indicative of that. Everyone.
Oh yeah, with school.
And, oh yeah,
for sure. Yeah, I feel like
we're
everyone's
still waiting on our hot weather to start in San Francisco. It's been cold.
Oh, I didn't know you were in San Francisco. I used to live there. I mean, that's right. September is the start of y'all's summer.
Yes, hot season.
Really? I had no idea that was very interesting. Yeah, this is my first summer in LA, and I did not know there was a thing of May gray, June gloom. But I actually didn't hate it because I was coming from New York where the summers are 80 to 90.
Very tropical.
Yeah, muggy and potentially miserable, even though I love New York. Very temperate and comfortable here.
Yeah, it is not a good time to be in Texas. I wouldn't advise any summer travel here.
It's too hot.
I'm in California too, so I'm from like year-round 70-degree weather.
Oh my gosh.
No telling if it's Christmas or not because it's 70 degrees still.
It really spoils you.
I know.
I've got a text in the audience who's confirming.
She's like, can confirm it's hot AF.
For everyone who's just joining us, we're giving everyone a few minutes to roll in. So we will get started very shortly as soon as we have kind of quorum here. And another confirmation on the fact that SF is very chilly right now. It's all perspective. I'm much more of a warm weather girl, so I'll always take warm over cold. I can't do the cold. I'm weak.
I love cold. I love cold. That's the one thing I do love about Texas is you do I don't know, a couple years we've had snow, or at least, I don't know, it just feels like a real winter.
Icy. Yeah, you get some winter weather.
Yeah, I'm into it. I'm definitely into it. Yeah, coming from California, there's all these new things that I'm learning we have to do. Considering we have a real winter, cover your, I don't know, what do you cover your faucets, or I don't know, every year we're oh snap, run to Home Depot. We've got to do that thing. Yeah, we've only been here for a couple of years, so we're still, it's a ramp up.
Yeah, not a lot of weather prep coming from California.
This is, part of the reason I moved to California. I'm not made for it. Well, we have a pretty good group here, so I think we can go ahead and get started. So thank you everyone for joining. Really excited to talk today through creative to holistic channel measurement. And we have a couple of great panelists here. And we'll introduce ourselves in just a moment. Before we get started, I want to talk through, for any of you who haven't joined Rockerbox webinars before, we do like this to be very open dialogue, conversational. So there is a chat in the right-hand side of your screen. You can throw questions in. We will moderate and kind of go through questions as we go along. So if we don't see it right away, we'll come back to it, and there'll also be time at the end for Q&A, but please don't be shy. So before we kick off, I'd love for our panelists, and thank you both for joining, to do a quick intro. And Elise, if you don't mind starting here.
Yeah, let's do it. Hi, everyone. I'm Elise Morris. I'm a team lead overseeing US agencies here at TikTok. I've been at TikTok for, 3.5 years now, which is like 10 years in like normal human time. So yeah, really excited to be joining both of you. I've worked in the past with Bamboo, so it's so great to see you guys and chat with you all. And obviously a big fan of Rockerbox. So yeah, excited to webinar panel with it or with you all today.
Yes. And then Erica.
Yeah, hi, I'm Erica Dial. I'm an associate director here at Bamboo. Bamboo is a full-service paid media, creative, and data science agency. I've been here for just about 5 years. I've got my 5-year anniversary coming up in September, but I've been in the digital marketing space for about 10 years. So yeah, really excited to chat with you guys today.
Awesome. And then quickly, I'm Kelsey. I'm the head of customer success at Rockerbox, but I've been working at Rockerbox in various capacities for almost 5 years now, which is wild to say. But really excited to kick off this conversation. So we're going to start with it's a high level question to help set the context for some of the deeper topics that we're going to get into today. So really thinking about how creative and the creative landscape has changed over the past 5 years and what that means for the modern marketer. And I know Elise, couldn't have someone better to speak to this from the TikTok perspective, but would love if you can kick us off here.
Yeah, my gosh, what a question. How have creatives changed over the past 5 years? What an amount of time, but my gosh, so much has changed from an industry standpoint. And I think what's most interesting is a lot of the changes that we're seeing today are kind of transcending across like other channels and kind of like inventory types too, right? So obviously TikTok, we're commonly bucketed into social, right? We are a video and entertainment platform. But yeah, I mean, I think first and foremost, how is creative changed? Well, the format, first and foremost, I mean, we're a full screen, verticalized kind of video format, which 5 years ago was rich media and still is, like, especially programmatically speaking. So what's interesting is, we've coined the term TikTok first creative, right? And I think what's really interesting is people are building creative, not just in that format, but it's sound on, it's typically involving some level of like UGC, again, that full screen vertical video. And we're starting to see that nature of video make its way across to other channels too. So what I love to say is what is kind of originated as a TikTok first creative or a TikTok creative best practice is really just an industry best practice. So for me, I would say, in my perspective, the biggest changes that have happened over the last 5 years, this shift into short form video, gotta plug this stat. I mean, people are spending more time watching TikTok than they are Netflix, right? People spend a movie theater amount of time watching TikTok, and it's all short form video. The proliferation of UGC, user generated content. People are preferring UGC content. And also this concept of like edutainment as well. So marrying education plus entertainment. I don't really do TLDRs, so that's my answer. All of those things.
I know, Erica, you also have some thoughts here just from the Bamboo side and working with your clients.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as Elise explained, TikTok really changed how we think about creative and opened up the door for us to produce and test more of that vertical sound on content as a best practice to drive performance for our clients. We started to see a lot of success with UGC, user generated content on TikTok, and other channels started releasing similar placements. And we started to see that what we tested on TikTok would also work on placements like YouTube Shorts and Meta Reels, which really helped us diversify our creative and reach new audiences. If you've been in this space for a while, you'll know that, we used to be able to hyper target as a best practice when digital marketing was relatively new. But nowadays, broad targeting is a best practice, meaning creative is a very critical lever. Creative is truly the new targeting. I'm sure you've not heard that first here, but just to reiterate, this is absolutely still what we're seeing. And we rely very heavily on that short form video as a lever to help us reach new audiences. So gone are the days of testing the same cuts of video with different colors and just changing a couple things to make an iteration. We really need to focus on creative diversification. Oftentimes the algorithm won't even recognize a creative as new if you just change something very small. So we're really looking to test net new concepts, net new placements, all of that to reach new audiences and keep growing businesses. For example, a client needed to dip their toes into UGC to diversify their creative and reach new audiences. And incorporating UGC resulted in a 68% improvement to cost per acquisition on Meta almost immediately. This was in a couple of weeks. So really just driving that point home.
Yeah, I really like that line you had of creative is the new targeting. I feel like that actually segues us really well. And moving quickly off the first question, because I think we have so much to get into in more of our deeper dives. But I think, Erica, you're a great one to kick us off here as we think about how should brands be thinking about evaluating creative performance? Kind of how are you brands that you work with through this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, to evaluate creative performance, you really have to look at it differently depending on the tactic, because different tactics are going to fulfill, or different creatives are going to fulfill different needs depending on the stage of the user journey. So for prospecting tactics, we'll look heavily at upper funnel metrics, as we know that those creatives need to be efficient in grabbing attention and telling a compelling story around the product or the business. In addition to click-through rate and CPM, these creatives need to have efficient video engagement metrics. So we look at time spent watching the video, we look at cost per view, then we also evaluate how efficient that creative is in terms of site engagement metrics like cost per session and average engagement time on site. Then for retargeting tactics, and it keeps going down lower the funnel, we want to make sure creatives are successfully closing the deal from those warmed up audiences. So we're more focused on lower funnel metrics like conversion rate and CPA.
Yeah, that's great advice. I'm not sure, Elise, if you have anything to add here more from the TikTok brands as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I love when you said, evaluating performance almost in accordance with where we're at in the funnel, because one, it's a creative best practice to build creative for whatever objective and whatever part of the funnel you're really looking to work. That is not only a best practice, a creative production best practice, but also certainly from a measurement perspective as well. And I would honestly just simply say there's we're here to talk about two things: holistic measurement, we're talking about holistic channel performance, but also the importance of making sure that we're taking that measurement strategy all the way down to creative. Just as important, as Erica had mentioned, creative is the new targeting. It's such a critical lever that agencies and advertisers could be pulling to improve the efficacy of the media that they're running. So I just kind of want to double down and say, if you don't have a measurement strategy that's really focused on creative performance, here's your sign to go build one out. And then also, I think historically, we typically tend to rely on CTR as the main metric, which is, it's still a strong indicator of whether a performance is maybe seeing creative fatigue, which, like I said, we know people are consuming so much TikTok that creative fatigue happens more on the platform. And then again, going back to Erica's point, just changing colors and in simple swaps don't really do it anymore. Really thinking about how do we optimize our hooks, or how do we optimize other elements of the creative to not only kind of scale out the number of creative that you could be producing, but also optimize it so that you're almost optimizing to extend the livelihood of a creative, but obviously also for performance. Yeah. So I guess my answer is +1 to the approach that Erica and team are taking, and 2, again, if you don't have a measurement strategy that has a creative component or that's focused on creative, here is your sign to go out and make sure that you're prioritizing that.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought up creative fatigue. This is something that comes up so much with the brands that we work with, especially in TikTok, for example, where creative fatigue can happen so quickly, and it can be difficult for brands to navigate. How do you combat that, and how do you plan for that? So that's super helpful advice. Also, I'll just make a plug if there are any questions from the audience. I see, number of Rockerbox customers and others here. So you have the right people in the room if you want to ask any questions. I think this is actually a really nice segue from what Elise and Erica shared into thinking through versus just focused on creative performance alone. Why should brands even be thinking about holistic measurement? And I'm happy to provide like the Rockerbox 2 cents here, but we also, want to hear from others. And, from our experience working with the brands at Rockerbox, we just found that focusing on those creative insights alone can really quickly lead to siloed measurement. And when I say siloed measurement, you're really not thinking about the broader picture. And what that means really tactically for brands is you're probably leaving dollars on the table through inefficiencies. And I think both Erica and Elise have mentioned the importance of just understanding like where creatives work best in the funnel and where those are hitting. And that's really hard to do from a siloed perspective. So you need to understand across the channels that we're running, where are those touch points in the user journey? We've had many examples, like I'll pick on OTT is actually one where we've seen this a lot, in that brands move into testing OTT, just assuming this is going to be a really strong top of funnel awareness driver. And then that dictates creative decisions. But then what ends up happening sometimes is you find like this is actually potentially more of a consideration touch point, or this is actually really helpful from a re-engagement or reactivation perspective. And those sort of insights are difficult to get when you're just looking at that channel performance by itself versus looking more holistically. And then, kind of the output of that is making the determination of maybe, our creative for OTT shouldn't be so full top of funnel brand awareness focused and more focused on like who is the audience we're hitting, where is this hitting in the funnel, and how can we drive better efficiency through those sort of insights. So that's a little bit of just what we've seen from the customer lens. But I'm also curious, I think Erica, you have some thoughts here and kind of what you've seen and what you would recommend.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of recommendations, we're always pushing for advanced measurement with our clients to make sure that they and us are investing their media spend wisely. So that's into the right channels, into the right tactics, and of course, into the right creative. So as we talked about before, creative is the new targeting. It's a make it or break it part of your paid media strategy. And when the most granular part of campaign hierarchy has such a large impact on your overall performance, measurement becomes incredibly important. And I think a lot of advertisers get caught in the trap of only looking at performance in a silo, but it's important to have the right tools to see both those smaller and larger trends with a measurement partner in order to be able to see the bigger picture and see what's influencing the bottom line. So again, you can make more strategic shifts and measure them appropriately.
Yeah, that's great advice. I don't know, Elise, any last thoughts on this one? I mean, there's so much.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I have thoughts. You said OTT, right? Like that's almost like a love language. I have a CTV OTT background.
Okay.
And I think it also raises a very, very important point. When we think about, again, going back to that first question, how has creative changed over the last 5 years? How does the way that we plan and execute and measure media, generally speaking, change?
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about TikTok, it's OTT. It's literally OTT.
Yeah.
Again, people are watching that format the same way that they watch content on Hulu on their phones, right? So when we think about those themes, those industry themes that we can't ignore, we are media convergence, like literally hashtag media convergence, that is happening. So having a holistic measurement strategy is just even more critical, not just for like social as a channel, but literally the entirety of your media mix. So yeah, I'm so like, streaming connection loss. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? I got a little.
Oh, we lost her. Okay. Elise will come back on stage when I thought that was actually a streaming joke until I realized she was actually dropping off. But this is actually great timing for us to move into our next question. And I do think this segues really nicely off of what we were talking about more broadly from holistic measurement and thinking about how deep should marketers be going as related to testing creative? And I think, Erica, this is something that you have a ton of experience with and would love to get kind of your POV here.
We are always testing everything at Bamboo, and with creative, you really can't go deep enough. I'm starting to sound like a broken record here, but creative is the most important lever for performance. It's estimated that it accounts for 50 to 70% of your campaign's return on investment. So I mentioned earlier that, we measure creative by funnel stage, but we also place a lot of importance on creative messaging by funnel stage and tailor this for our clients. So this is one of the ways that we go deep into creative testing, but we're also testing, different content types. We're testing different hooks. We're testing different messaging in those ads based on funnel stage.
Yeah, no, I mean, that makes complete sense. I'm not sure. Oh, and we have Elise reconnecting. I know that she was going to talk a bit through testing strategies as relates to. Oh, Elise, you're back. Hey, I was just.
Someone was trying to sabotage me.
We actually segued into kind of thinking through how deep marketers should be going as related to testing. And I know that you had some really great kind of advice as related to an always on testing strategy and how marketers should start to think about that. And I'm not sure if you can elaborate a bit more there.
Absolutely. I mean, I know Erica had touched on like you can't go deep enough, but and I don't know if Erica, did you surface the test and harvest? God, I love that. Did we do that yet?
Not yet, but we can get into it now.
All right. Well, I love that. I mean, I'm going to say like always be testing, test and learn. So don't just test one and, come upon like a hypothesis or a conclusion, like always be testing. There are so many different variables. So that's just a best practice for anything that you do, whether it's media execution, creative measurement, creative strategy, all of that. And then, we do have tools internally that are accessible to agencies. And a lot of our agencies are leveraging these tools to help understand and optimize the creative that they're building. So everything from like TikTok Symphony, which just quick Google TikTok Symphony. It's a portfolio of creative tools and resources to help you optimize and understand the efficacy of your creative. So I would say, really test and learn and always be testing, and then also lean into automation and AI. Right. So that would be my perspective on how deep you should be going to test creative, and also how often as well. The answer is often. Go deep and do it often.
Yeah. We actually have a really relevant question from the audience that I think we can just take now is, are you testing landing pages in tandem with the new creative content, and kind of what does that look like?
Yeah, I can take this one. So absolutely, testing landing pages is super important. However, I would say that this falls under one of the more granular variables that you would not want to change when testing a net new creative concept, because you won't know if it's the landing page or the creative concept that worked. That being said, we do recommend tailoring. We do recommend a cohesive journey from creative to landing page, in addition to a cohesive strategy down the funnel. You want to make sure that translates and extends to the landing page as well.
100%. That's so true. And then there are also some like ad policy and like compliance. What is the word? Components or implications. That's the word I was looking for. We are getting closer to end of day Friday. There are compliance, things to keep in mind as you're building out and measuring your creative as well. It is possible you could be flagged for promoting something on creative and there being like a really large discrepancy with the landing page that you're driving to. But also like in terms of like other tools that you could be leveraging from a landing page perspective, like instant pages. How is that changing, the performance of the creative that you're running? Always be testing. But yeah, of course, it's a great question. Like landing page is almost kind of like an extension of your creative. So making sure that they speak to each other is certainly a best practice.
Yeah, for sure. there's other questions. We definitely, can pause for more. So please send them. I do think kind of testing and thinking about that as part of your measurement strategy segues really well into this question around methodologies and thinking about like what are the methodologies that brands should be leveraging to validate creative performance. And kind of just kicking us off here, I think I'd actually bring this back to versus just focusing on creative performance to the theme of our conversation today, thinking about holistic measurement more broadly. And there's two main elements that I'd start to think about here. So one is the power of leveraging first-party data, which we haven't called out explicitly today, but I think was a theme in what we were speaking about. And that relates really well into kind of my second point around not only just leveraging first-party data, but then connecting that first-party data together in a way, from a tooling and measurement perspective, where you move out of that siloed lens, as I spoke to earlier, and fill in some of those gaps of understanding. So you're not driving really avoidable inefficiencies. So Rockerbox, we typically see this take the form of diversified measurement, and then brands really triangulating those different measurement methodologies for the right decision. So we say, we're kind of the first ones to say there's no perfect measurement methodology, right? So we really see the most sophisticated marketers we work with leveraging multiple measurement methodologies to the right decision, right? So that can come in the form of, kind of starting very broadly with MMM and thinking about, okay, what is the best way for us to understand the most efficient budget and that forecasting perspective to set your budgets at the channel and tactic level. Once you have those budgets and really also getting a good understanding at the channel and tactic level where you start to hit diminishing returns and thinking about that more broadly, then you can go more into in-channel optimizations. So we see that taking the form of really understanding that user path to conversion and looking at a deduplicated performance lens. And that's where you're taking that MMM budget, you're applying it at the channel and tactic level, and then making those informed granular optimizations. And this is where the creative piece comes into play of, okay, we should be shifting budget across these campaigns or ad sets or creatives to use that budget that you've already set in the best way. And then the last piece, kind of to what we've been speaking about, in the last few minutes, is testing. So we really see experimentation is that final piece of kind of that triangulated measurement approach to say, okay, we have results from MMM, we have results potentially right from MTA. Let's validate those, stress test them, and then also inform them. So from a creative perspective, that could be A/B testing or kind of some of the pieces that Eric and Elise were talking about, but then also from a channel perspective, thinking about things like geo tests or, there's a whole kind of variety of different ways that you can start to say, okay, what is the incrementality or the impact of this specific channel or tactic? And then you start to feed that into your other measurement methodologies. So setting priors for MMM or tweaking your MTA results, et cetera. And we see those, it really is all working together. I'm not sure, my answer was a little long-winded, but Eric or Lee, anything that you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, like every time you said triangulate, I was like, yeah, snap. I mean, it's like favorite shape. Like that is the key to success. And I told you guys as we were prepping, but I was like, I can't wait to go on and say you can't half-ass measurement in today's day and age. You just can't. Yes. And not half-assing measurement equals using a number of different sources to kind of validate the efficacy of your campaigns. And that starts with building out a strategy that's rooted in almost like that triangle, right? I don't know, squares are cool too. Just more than two, really, to deliver on a very informed decision that actually, has an opportunity to impact an advertiser's bottom line. Like I will say in my years of experience, advertisers who are leaning on a very advertisers who are still doing the last click GA as their first, foremost, and only. I wonder if they're operating out of fear, right? fear of the unknown or of something that feels very intimidating, which like when we think about like a triangulated measurement strategy, that can feel kind of intimidating. But in my experience, I literally have seen advertisers who have advanced into that level of measurement make decisions that are more informed. And I've seen sales happen, right? Like bottom line is impacted.
Right.
So it's really incredible to see. And that's why, you know, when I come on and participate in things like this, I get really excited because we're talking about something that has real life implications and can drive real life results. So
Absolutely.
we love triangles.
We couldn't agree more at Bamboo. We have something called an efficient growth triangle, where we ladder up channel, paid media to business level strategy, and it's, you know, goes in a circle there. So really trying to show clients how what you're doing at the channel level influences paid media, influences business, and round it goes. So to bring this back a little bit to creative testing at the channel level, we like to use a test and harvest, always on creative strategy, where we launch creatives and tester campaigns to test net new concepts, messaging, different hooks, etc. And then only winning creatives get expanded into evergreen. This way, you're only putting assets that work well and have been proved out into your top campaigns, and ads that don't perform will get paused and don't get expanded. You take what worked and didn't and apply those learnings to developing new creatives. This strategy has led to some amazing results for our clients. For example, an enterprise level client needed to strategize new creative that was engaging yet action driven and adjust their short form creative strategy to be awareness focused versus direct response. Bamboo's expansion into YouTube Shorts and leveraging of creator content led to meaningful campaign improvements and new mobile-first creative learnings, which of course help us develop strategies at the paid media level, which ladders up into business results. This client was able to achieve 38% more efficient return on marketing spend.
Wow. Yeah. Those results speak for themselves, truly.
If you want more results, we've got 1,000 stories just like this. So come chat with me.
Amazing. To that, we have quite a bit of time. We're happy to open up to Q&A. Any questions you have, really two experts in the room, TikTok, Bamboo. If you have questions around testing strategy, things that have come up, you know, throw them our way. All right, we've got Patrick. Thank you, Patrick, for driving our Q&A. This is great. All right. So question is, why do you think awareness/consideration worked better for that customer than direct response on TikTok? Was it because of their particular business? So that sounds like just a follow-up question from your results story, Erica.
Let me look at this question here. So why do we think awareness consideration worked better for that customer than direct response? So again, I would say that on TikTok, we're really leaning into that edutainment that Elisa is mentioning. We want to make sure that we're telling a compelling story to educate people about what the product or business is. And TikTok is an amazing platform for that. I mean, we all love TikTok, to entertain us, but it also has really efficient CPMs. People love spending time on TikTok. And so this is a good strategy for that platform. That being said, we do see success with direct response as well on TikTok. But again, you really have to use an awareness or consideration tactic to warm that audience up to start nudging them down the funnel. So I'd really say it's not an either or thing. It's you want to have a holistic full funnel marketing strategy and measure it accordingly.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, +1 to that. And I think the other thing, like going back to like in the spirit of holistic measurement, right? Like we're talking TikTok because I'm TikTok, I'm here, but they're also managing other channels. So in the greater scheme of things, like we always hear stories of the impact that, we kicked up some awareness and consideration media on top of like our lower funnel. And not only is that driving more efficiencies and performance on TikTok, but it's also helping to improve our ROAS or other lower funnel results across other channels as well. So I think what I love is the way in which all of the channels work together. And I think full funnel is the name of the game. So yeah, I love your response, but and agree, it's never an either or, it's an all. Can you tell I'm in sales? Do it all on TikTok. Do it all. Find driver websites. Oh yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, I mean, social e-commerce is certainly a 2024 trend. Let me read your question, Patrick, and thank you for all the questions. So his question is, are there any trends you see with advertisers' content driving to websites versus TikTok shop storefronts? I will say, in a best case scenario, in an ideal world, and again, I want to go back to what I said earlier, social e-commerce. Having a holistic social e-commerce strategy encompasses driving to the .com, but also driving to the shop. Also, when you're thinking about the product, this is, of course, a very relevant question. Is it a product that's going to sell in a shop? If so, get up and running. Why not? It's such an easy user flow, and I think that in North America, people are really accustomed to buying within even IG, right? IG and TikTok, their e-com channels, right? Their storefronts. People have become accustomed to that, and that's a natural kind of organic behavior. But I would say one trend or one best practice, in particular when driving to your shops, using affiliates and creators to drive home that messaging and drive that traffic to your shop. That is and again, that kind of goes back to the first question we kicked off with, was how is creative changed and UGC? And gosh, I don't have the notes up, but there is a stat. There are many stats. People trust content. People trust creators.
Yeah.
And not just your big time macro influencers or even celebrities. I mean, this again, proliferation of micro influencer. Anybody can be a creator. I can go on TikTok and I can be a creator, right? So that human element, it creates this level of trust. So I would say that is a big one. If you're doing anything shops wise, build out an affiliate team. Affiliate and creator is a big component of a successful shop strategy.
Yeah, that's great advice, and something that comes up so frequently with our customers, kind of going back to creative fatigue and the time that goes into it, is we've seen that, if they're focusing on that creator community and having kind of influencers do some of the legwork for them, that actually makes it more TikTok more scalable for them.
Right. And that's the other thing too. I mean, having creative and lots of it, that's a big must do.
Yeah.
We always say TikTok is a very creative hungry platform, but we love using it to test creatives for that very reason. We can test them very quickly. I'd also like to add to that, I've actually got a great stat. We had a growth level client that needed to or wanted to, we recommended them expanding to TikTok. And they were using a lot of ads from other placement or other channels that weren't as native feeling to TikTok. But once we adopted a more native feeling ad, proved it out with our test and harvest creative strategy, and drove a 20% more efficient cost per purchase than non-native feeling ads.
Wow. And the beauty in doing that is, and I think people feel intimidated and they automatically assume, which is, I love to challenge this assumption. People think creative production, I have to build net new creative for TikTok. It doesn't necessarily have to be that expensive. And it's actually not. I mean, most of our advertisers are literally shooting content from their phones, or using, our CapCut, for example. There are so many tools, including Adobe, that make it really easy to kind of slice and dice. And then agencies are obviously Bamboo are really leaning into this and offering that up as a service. Gosh, where was I going with that? Oh, the benefit in building a TikTok first creative is that you can recycle it back across the other channels that you're running, whether it be YouTube or IG. So you're really getting a lot of bang for your buck for designing for the platform.
No, that's a great call out. Any other? Oh, wow. I have one more question from Patrick. Thank you, Patrick. A question for Erica. How does Bamboo source creators to make new content for brands? What tools and platforms do you use to connect?
Yeah, this is a great question. This is something that we have noticed as well. We need to find new sources for those creators, and we have a great partnerships program here at Bamboo. where we partner with people that do this as their field of expertise. So we know that we're not experts in sourcing creators, but we find the people that are experts, we partner with them and drive results for our clients.
Yeah, one of the benefits of working with a great agency, for sure.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
We have another question. Okay, this is great. Are there any trends that speak to video versus static catalog ads, and which ones tend to perform better for upper funnel / broad audiences?
I can take this one.
Oh, go ahead. Not us fighting for the question. No, you go ahead, Erica.
I just wanted to highlight that for upper funnel, for finding new audiences, especially when you're broad targeting, video performs better for that. However, I would urge you to test both because there's not a one size fits all approach for every client.
Yeah, and I think catalog, I'm kind of interpreting this in two different ways. So we also have our static carousel. So there's the video, and then there's catalog, which are essentially dynamic overlays. Fabulous and high performing prospecting strategy. And then also, like, as soon as you built up that pool, extending into a retargeting strategy that also again builds off of our catalog. So our dynamic product ads. God, we've gone through 15 name changes since I've been here. They are now VSA, video shopping ads. So yeah, I mean, leaning into both for awareness and for your lower funnel. Streaming lost. Are you guys losing me again? Oh God.
Not yet.
Here.
Okay. Well, I'll wrap it up. You had mentioned static catalog, and I'm interpreting that as our carousel. That is also one from a consideration perspective. We see a lot of great traffic being driven from those carousel units. So again, I think it also, yes, there will be a recording sent to everyone after, right? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think also, like, work with your agency, work with your support system at TikTok to really determine what is the best strategy, considering all of those things. But I mean, I will say VSA, video shopping ads, which is that dynamic catalog, works from a full funnel perspective. Carousel is seeing a lot of fabulous performance as well. Work that into your full funnel strategy. And yeah, can attest to all of those products, but I don't think that they are necessarily specific to actually, man, you said upper funnel and broad, which is kind of like have a whole nother answer for that. But anyways, I'll end it there because I'm obviously rambling at this point, but and
well, I really appreciate TikTok and Bamboo are both amazing partners to Rockerbox. So we appreciate both of you joining us today. This has been an awesome conversation. If people have questions after, we will send out the recording, but also feel free to follow up with us directly and, here's some information on how you can get started with either Rockerbox, Bamboo, or TikTok, or all three.
Yeah. Thank you all. Appreciate the questions. Great discussion.
Yeah.
Thanks all.